Hello everyone, my name is Tony and I will be guiding you through this webinar about AutoSPInstaller and SPDocKit. Our today's topic is going to show you how easily you can provision farms and how easily you can create different farms using a great community tool, AutoSPInstaller. And I'll also show you how you can connect that with SPDocKit in order to pre-generate templates for AutoSPInstaller and then use these templates to create new farms. So let's start with the presentation. A quick introduction. My name is Tony. I'm a co-founder and CEO of Acceleratio. We create different tools for system administrators, for SharePoint administrators, and for Office 365 administrators. Our today's topic is our key tool, SPDocKit, which we created a couple of years ago when we were consultants doing assessments and analysis of different SharePoint farms, and we kind of realized that we need a tool that's going to help us be better in assessing and testing and documenting different SharePoint farms. So we have customers all over the globe. Our tools are used by some of the largest corporations in the world. They use these tools to document, to monitor their systems, to create new farms and a lot of other things that I'm going to show you and mention today. So a quick overview of our tool. So our tool SPDocKit helps you with the different areas of your day-to-day SharePoint operations. What we have started in the beginning, the key feature was the ability to create documentation. So this allowed many customers to create a documentation by just using our tool and creating a very detailed and complex documentation of all the systems and all the service applications, all the web application site collections, and everything that's stored in the system. We created an additional layer of features around that, and we now allow you to analyze all these things, and we also provide you with a set of best practices to help you analyze what's inside. On top of analyzing just SharePoint structure and SharePoint topologies and features, we also provide you with the ability to report and manage permissions. So anything that you want to manage or configure in terms of permission management, you can do that with our tool. We also provide some interesting actions like cloning permissions, transferring permissions from one individual to another. So for example, if you hire somebody who is going to do the same job as some other person in your company, some other employee, then you can easily just select this person and clone existing permissions and transfer them to the new employee coming to work at your company. As I already mentioned, when we gather all the information about your farm, especially around configuration, system settings, databases, topology of your IIS, topology of your settings inside a Windows system, we can then easily analyze that and provide you or match whatever you have configured against Microsoft best practices, against community best practices, and then we can tell you what has potentially been misconfigured and where are the areas that you can improve on top of your existing configuration and make some changes so that you can optimize your farm for the best possible usage. This is like optional. Not every best practice applies to every situation, and it really depends on your business needs and your overall infrastructure, what is the best practice, but it comes handy in many cases when people are tasked in managing a SharePoint farm that's complex, and this tool helps them get a quick overview of all the possible settings and all the possible different choices that you might have when you are configuring a SharePoint farm. So the second tool that we want to talk to you today about is AutoSPInstaller. This is an awesome community project built by Brian Lancelot and his team. It's completely open source, and you have a link on this slide where you can go to a Codeplex site and you can download all the PowerShell scripts and the entire package in order to be able to configure farms. So this is AutoSPInstaller is a set of PowerShell scripts that you can use to install and configure your SharePoint farm. Brian started building this back when PowerShell was introduced to SharePoint back in SharePoint 2010, and I remember those days because at that time I was writing a chapter for SharePoint 2010 Unleashed book, and my chapter was PowerShell. So we had a task to build a script that would provision a farm, and roughly at that same time Brian started building AutoSPInstaller, and at that time that was like a simple script, similar to the one that we had in our book. But over the years Brian and his co-team and his co-workers built a very detailed script. So today when you download PowerShell AutoSPInstaller, it's really huge, complex, and it has so many options that is simply astonishing. I'm going to show you that in just a couple of minutes, but believe me, it's one of the best things that we have in the SharePoint community. How does that work? You prepare an XML file that contains all the desired services, web applications, and anything related to SharePoint that you want to provision and configure. And then you start a PowerShell script. The PowerShell script reads from the XML file all the settings and then provisions all these components in your system. So if you think about just one thing in SharePoint Farm, and that's how your databases look like when you run through a default installer, you get something like this. So it's like a huge mess. And this is just one farm. Imagine that you provision like 10 SharePoint farms in the same SQL server. This would lead to a great mess. But when you use AutoSPInstaller, you get something like this. So you have complete control over the naming conventions. You can sort all your databases that served one farm with like a prefix for every single database. So it's much easier to maintain a farm like this. The other part of this script is AutoSPInstaller.com, and that's a graphical user interface for AutoSPInstaller. It helps you configure the script and helps you configure all the settings and everything that's inside the XML file. So you just go to this web interface, you configure all the scripts, you configure all the web applications, and then you can easily generate an XML file that's going to be used in the AutoSPInstaller. AutoSPInstaller helps you provision farms. SPDocKit for a long time had the ability to document your farm configuration and to create a documentation in a Word file so that you can print this configuration and create a documentation for it. Our customers always wanted to know if they can provision a farm based on their existing farm. So they wanted a little bit more than just Word documentation that we were providing at that moment. So we were thinking, what's the best way for us to provision farms based on documentation that you already have? So we were thinking maybe we can build our own tool or something that can provision farms, but then we realized that we already have the ultimate tool for farm provisioning, and that's AutoSPInstaller. So we decided to help you in terms of we wanted to provide you with the tool that can help you generate the input XML file for the AutoSPInstaller. So you just go to our tool, you generate the XML file based on your existing farm, and then you can provision a new farm based on that farm. So let's take a simple use case that we want to show you today. Imagine a situation where you have one developer called Developer A, and this developer, he has a SharePoint farm with a SQL server and two SharePoint servers, two web frontends or one web frontend and application server in a single farm. And you as SharePoint system administrator, you are given a task to create another farm that's completely the same or completely with the completely the same configuration as the existing A farm. In order to do that, you want to provision two new farms, B farm for developer B, and C farm for developer C. In order to do that, you can go provision your servers, you can go provision SharePoint, and then you can configure everything manually. But with the combination of SPDocKit and AutoSPInstaller, you can easily, let's say, copy the configuration of farm A and deploy that to farms B and C. So this is the demo I want to show you today. So I want to show you how you can use SPDocKit and how you can copy the configuration from A farm to B and C farms. So I have just opened the A farm. So this is the existing SharePoint farm. I'm going to fire up SPDocKit. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to load my existing farm and create something we call snapshot. And that snapshot holds the entire documentation of your farm. Of course, that would be a little bit too long for this demonstration. So I already did that. And I'm just going to open that snapshot for you today. So if you take a look at our documentation here, as I explained in the PowerPoint presentation, we have two servers, servers A1 and A2, and this farm also has a SQL server that's storing this farm. So my task for today is create an AutoSPInstaller configuration file and then copy the settings to the B and C farms. So let's start doing that. Okay, so I have fired up a wizard that we use to generate the XML file for AutoSPInstaller. And I'm going to run through all the steps that are required in order to provision or to create an XML file for AutoSPInstaller. So the first thing I need to do, I need to specify the farm account for my new farm. And I'm just going to type that. Okay, I need to type in the password for that. I need to type in the passphrase for my new farm. And I also need to type in product key that's going to be used in that farm. For the purpose of this demonstration, I'm using the fake key, but when you do this in your production environment, you need to enter the right key because this key is going to be applied to your new farm as well. Okay, so next step is server mappings. So we said that we are provisioning a new B and C farms. So in this demo, I'm going to show you how you can provision the B farm from A farm. And as you can see on your left-hand side, or left-hand side of this table, we have two servers in this farm, servers A1 and A2. In the new farm, we are going to have two new servers, and these servers are going to be called B1 and B2. So in order to replace the server name, I just need to replace this thing with this thing, and I'm going to have two new servers, B1 and B2. Of course, AutoSPInstaller does not provision your virtual machines. So in order to do this demo, I have already prepared two new Windows servers called with these names B1 and B2, and these servers are going to be used for my SharePoint installation. Okay, so as I said, the third server is the SQL server. Of course, you can use a different SQL server. For the purpose of this demonstration, I'm going to use the same SQL server, but in case I had a different server, I would just type the name of the new server, and then the new server would be used for hosting my SharePoint database. The next thing I have is account mappings. So what we do in SPDocKit, we gather all the service accounts, all the any kind of important account that you have configured in your system is going to be surfaced here, and then you can do mapping between different accounts in the source farm and map these accounts with your production or your new farm. So for example, I said I have a farm A and farm B. It might be a case where farm B is a different Active Directory domain, or for some reason Farm B might have to use different accounts, or there's like a security policy for some reason you're not going to use the same accounts or something like that. So you can use this wizard to easily replace your source accounts with your production or whatever other domain accounts. So let's say that my source farms is in test domain and my destination farm, my target farm, is in Europe domain. I can then easily replace everything here with a different domain name, and I can use different usernames and different service accounts for your production, for your bee farm. I need to type in my passwords for my username, for my managed accounts. Managed accounts are going to be automatically provisioned in your new farm. I also need to provide information about some specific accounts, like search service account and unattended account used for some applications. So I'm just going to type all that information into this form. Okay. I can also choose what kind of applications I want to provision, and I can also choose what kind of names I want to use. So let's say that in this demonstration I want to name all my service accounts with B so that I can distinguish between A and B farm in the future. I also want to change the URL. So in my A farm I had something called my site A, and then in my B farm I'm going to have my site B, and instead of portal A I'm going to have portal B in my destination farm. I also have my databases here. So all my SharePoint databases on the left-hand side in this grid are called A something. So I'm going to replace A something with B underscore. So all my databases for the B farm are going to have a B inside their name. So this is going to help me since in this demonstration I'm using the same SQL server. So when I have all these farms on the same SQL server, it's going to be very easy for me to distinguish between A and B and C and any other farm that's stored in this system. And that's it. So this is the final step. When I click next, the system is going to generate a file. This is the XML file that we have for AutoSPInstaller, and as you can see there's a lot of options. So I'm just going to open that in a folder. And then I'm going to jump into AutoSPInstaller Online, which is, as I said before, is a web interface that helps you prepare your XML file. So in order to validate everything that we have created so far, I can go to the Build Farm option, and then I have the option to load the template from the XML file. I'm just going to open my location, and I'm going to open my file. So this interface is going to show me everything that's inside the system. So here I have everything that's going to be provisioned. So I have two servers, A and B. I have these settings. So this is my farm account. This is my password. This is how my central database, the configuration database, is going to be named. These are my service accounts. These are my services that I want to provision. This is how logging is configured. These are two web applications that I have in my system, and I can even expand on that. So maybe the developer B needs another application, so I can go here and I can add that. I can add site collections. I can configure every single web service application that SharePoint has. So I can go here and do additional settings to anything that's maybe missing. And once I'm done, I can download the XML file I have prepared, and then I can copy this XML file to the destination farm and then I can use the farm to provision that. So I made some minor changes to the XML file you have just seen. For example, I have changed the key. I don't use the passwords that you have seen and things like that. So I have prepared everything, and then now we can jump into the B machine. And in the B machine, we can see what's going on. So on the B machine, I have already downloaded AutoSPInstaller. So it's on my C drive, and here you'll see this is a series of PowerShell scripts that are pretty much going to install my farm. In order to make this demonstration a bit quicker, I have already installed SharePoint. AutoSPInstaller can even do that for you. So this can be like a blank Windows machine, Windows server, and then you can use it to do entire configuration on your own. But I have already installed the SharePoint bits on this machine. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to call AutoSPInstaller launch.bat, and then I'll provide the input file that I have prepared, input farm B XML. So that's the very similar XML to the one that you have seen before. And I'm just going to run that. Okay. So AutoSPInstaller now asks me if I'm ready to proceed. It has detected that SharePoint is already installed. That's true. And I want to proceed. And the first step is of the AutoSPInstaller script is to test my script. So for example, it's going to validate all your accounts. It's going to make sure that you have typed correct domains, correct passwords, and everything. And if you recall, when I was showing you the use case for this demo, and that was I want to copy farm A to B, and B farm has two servers, B1 and B2. So AutoSPInstaller is going to use PowerShell remoting to provision not just B1, the server where we are currently running the script, but also B2. So I need to log in order to be able to run the script on the different computer. It's testing the script, it's validating all the accounts, it's validating all my inputs, and everything that I have configured. It's being validated right now. What's great with AutoSPInstaller is it can always continue on the last step. So even if you do something wrong, so for example, even if I type in a password, the wrong password, something like that, I can rerun the script and it's pretty much going to continue from the last successful step. So it's very, very useful because sometimes you cannot get everything right from the beginning. So as you can see, it did all the tests. All my accounts are correct. Everything is okay. It can configure a SharePoint right now, and it's asking me to confirm that I want to do this right now. I'm going to say yes, and this process is going to take roughly on this machine, on my infrastructure, roughly 20 minutes. So what I did just for you and just for today, I have already prepared another farm with AutoSPInstaller. So this is the C farm, the other one that we mentioned, and I already ran the script just for you and just for today, and I have prepared everything. So this is the C farm. Everything has been configured. This is the final result. The script has ended. I can also see the log. So everything that has happened, it's shown here. So I can go through my log and see what it already did. And for final confirmation, I'll just go to my central administration on the C farm. And as you can see, I already have everything. I'm just going to jump into my web applications, and I'm going to see here I have a My Site C and I have Portal C as well. So it has provisioned everything that I have asked with all the settings, and everything inside has been configured for my usage. So I'm done with this farm. As I said, with a little bit of configuration of the XML file, after that it's just like waiting for script to finish, like roughly 20 minutes, and everything, when that finishes, everything is okay. So let's jump into SPDocKit. So I have SPDocKit installed on the C farm, and to validate that everything is okay, I can load the entire farm and see what's inside. Of course, that's going to take me a couple of minutes, so I'm just going to show you what I have already loaded. So I'm just going to cancel this, and I'll go to my existing snapshots. So as you can see here, I have two C servers, C1 and C2, and I have a SQL server that's lying below that. So that's like the SQL server for this one. And I also have two web applications that I have provisioned my Site C and Portal C in this system. I have a lot of other things which I'm not going to show you today, but it has been provisioned in the same way as it was on the original A farm. So this is how easy it is to create a copy of, let's say, copy of your existing farm with AutoSPInstaller and SPDocKit. So let's just go back to the presentation. So the good way when you have SharePoint farms and when you have your existing farms to configure a new system is to use your existing farms with a good setup and then use AutoSPInstaller to create and set up new environments. SPDocKit can help you by creating an input file for AutoSPInstaller, and then you can use SPDocKit to make minor changes to your script, to your XML file, and then use the XML file, export that to AutoSPInstaller, and easily provision a number of different farms to your environment and recreate the same developer setup, or copy the production farm to your developer farm or production farm to your test farm. So it's very easy to copy, let's say, a configuration of an existing farm into the new farm. The features that I haven't shown you today are from our existing release. We are working hard to improve SPDocKit for future usage. We have talked with a number of people regarding AutoSPInstaller, and we are coming up with some very exciting new features that are listed on your screen right now. So you will be able to do some additional things. So if you remember, during my wizard, I had to type all the passwords, and I had to type a lot of things. So we have improved that. You'll be able to retrieve existing accounts and then just copy them to the new farm. We added some new features like disabling loopbacks and the ability to search different site collections in order to easily map the old ones and new ones. So that's everything that's coming up in the next release. So that's the demo that I wanted to show you today. So that's a quick overview of how you can use SPDocKit and AutoSPInstaller. Even if you don't use SPDocKit, I would still recommend that you take a look at the AutoSPInstaller. It's a very useful tool, and I definitely recommend that you give it a spin and try to provision if you have any kind of scenario when you need to provision multiple farms. As SharePoint 2016 is coming this year, so this is a great time to spend some time with AutoSPInstaller and learn how you can automate a lot of things regarding installation and configuration of permissions. So your key takeaway for today is use AutoSPInstaller. Thank you and have a nice day.